Good morning. My love, say something.
I'm not happy, teacher. My students are still sleeping.
We have 5 people awake. Maybe just say hello so we know who is here.
Don't tell your location where exactly you are because maybe we're gonna be surprised.
So, how is everybody doing this morning? And
How everybody are being this morning because not do, just be. Where is Steve and his pancakes? Margarita is always here. Where is Stavro? Kalimera Stavro. Where is Astrid? Good morning, Dimka. Sophia, you have a little bit of sun? Schumann, I know. Schumann is, my God, Schumann in the winter is like Antarctica. Ah, yeah. Sophia, it's great. Sophia, they're happy even if it's 1 more degrees up.
so we have Svetomir also. No, Astrid came, Liliana.
Where is Astrid? Ah, yes.
And we have one other person from Sofia. We cannot see who is this. So, anyway, let's start, my love. You want to say something before we start?
Don't know. Basically, we have George today, and George, what he's talking about sex and money. So today we don't talk about sex. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about you and me.
So let's bring George this morning. So it's all about money. Good
Well,
morning, George.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good.
I'm sexual orientated, impulse, vibration. I don't know. Anyway, blah blah
That's
story.
great. Actually, that now that you mention it, in one of the talks in the future, we're going to actually talk how by improving your sex life, you can improve your work, and vice versa. How you can improve your sex life by improving your work. So keep that in mind for future sessions.
What should I start first, my love? Which area you're more effective?
Okay, so shall we start?
Yes. Let me put. Here is very cold. I mean, it's like 27 and Clementine put air condition. My God. It's time
It's a
to be
good
in
thing.
winter.
Okay, so the first two sessions, we actually introduced the masculine and feminine. Last week, we talked about mainly, what did we talk about last week?
It's
We
about
talked
money.
about the relationship with yourself. And today, I'm going to start with a story. Because who doesn't like a story?
Oof, I love stories.
And some of us have know already about the story. It's a very well-known story in business and personal development. So it goes along the lines of this. There's a lumberjack competition, and there's a Canadian and a Norwegian. Again, no offense to the Canadians and the Norwegians. It's just a story, and I didn't pick nationalities. So just take it as two human beings, or however you want to take it. And so they were in competition, and they had to cut wood in the forest. And the one who cuts the most wood after 8 hours would win. So far, so good?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So what happened is that as the day went by, so the first hour, the first 50 minutes passed, and the Norwegian stopped. So this is when the Canadian started cutting more. Like it was, okay, he took a pause, let me take advantage of that. Same thing, and then after 10 minutes, the Norwegian came back. And the same thing happened all throughout the day. So every 50 minutes, the Norwegian would stop and come back after 10 minutes, every single hour for the 8 hours. And so who do you think won by the end of the 8 hours? Who cut the most trees?
The Norwegian.
It's actually correct. So do you know why, or was it just like a random guess?
Maybe because he was more productive during the time because he was taking break.
Exactly.
What I was
Exactly.
thinking Norwegian was doing was calling some team, paying them, and during he was relaxing, they were working for him.
It's a smart idea.
Because they're very cheeky.
It's a smart idea. Actually, the story goes that every 50 minutes, what used to happen is that because like the Canadian came and said, "How come I lost? I mean, I've been working for the past 8 hours. What have you been doing?" He said, "Simple. Every 50 minutes, I took my axe, I sharpened my axe, and this is how I was able to cut more trees down because while you were hitting with the same axe without sharpening it, your axe started to become a bit old, let's say, for lack of other word. And at the same time, by sharpening my axe, I would still be more efficient, more productive. And so this is why I won. And so the moral of the story is, for entrepreneurs, it's very, very, very important to work on your business, not in your business. It's important to do both, but it's important as well to work on your business more than you do in your business. The in your business is what the Canadian does. He takes the 8 hour, 9 hour, whichever you work or more, and he or she consistently works and works and works. I have my system. This is what I do. The Norwegian comes from a different perspective. Okay, I do my best, but every now and then I shift my mindset. I adjust my system. I arrange it, optimize it in order for me to be more productive. And it's also important to rest. So it's a beautiful story that sums up a bit what we should do. And this also applies to employees as well, by the way. Which leads us to two of my favorite productivity techniques. The first one is that some call them the Pomodoro technique. I use a twist of the Pomodoro technique. So the Pomodoro technique, if you're not familiar with it, is that you take a break you focus for 25 minutes, then you take a break, then you focus for 25 minutes. The way I use it is I use 48-12. So for 48 minutes, I actually work. And for 12 minutes, I have my habits, my beautiful, amazing habits that actually really help me become even more productive. Now, in all transparency, I don't use it all the time throughout the day. I try to at least do it 3 times throughout the day because sometimes it's impossible. And here's where you can go on and talk a lot about things that include habits that you like. So for example, some of the things that particularly I like is I drink water for clarity. So for those 12 minutes, I drink a sip of water. I actually take a deep breath in. So I breathe in, breathe out. Breathing is important to oxygenate the body and especially the mind. And this would actually help you get more ideas and be more in tune. I said send unconditional love to people that are either around me or people I work with, so it's those small stuff that like on one shot doesn't really mean anything, but if you actually add them up throughout the day, they are literally shifters. So this is the first of my favorite techniques. The second one is the 80-20 rule. So for those of you who are not familiar with the 80-20 rule, is that 80% of your results come from 20% of your work. And this applies in every single area of your life. For example, 80% of your profits come from 20% of your focus.
Yeah.
Were you here or did it cut?
No, it's
okay.
It's pare. Yes, pare. I hear about 2080.
Okay. So where was I? Yeah. So for example, I give the example of profits. Same thing with relationships. 20% of your relationships give you 80% of your satisfaction. So what's important here is to focus on your most important 20% at work, at home, whoever. This is a very, very important concept. So those two are very important. Now, let's jump in a little bit and talk about how employees can help. How employers or entrepreneur can help their employees be more committed. And there are 3 things. Any ideas? Would you like to share? You can also type in the chat if you have any ideas that you want to share as well.
Reward them, give them recognition, right?
That's very true.
Teamwork, like games and parties.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my love. This is the Google. You know what the Google do? Every morning they go there, they jump and they raise the energy. Like they're
It's a
out
form
of
of team building. It's very important. I agree. Okay, so the 3 points, and both of you are correct. In general, are growth. So as long as an employee finds that they are growing inside the company, whether in their own job or indirectly, this is one of the key things. They need to be in alignment with the purpose of their company, with their job, with the team, and belonging. So they need to feel they belong to the team. So alignment, belonging, and growth. Those are not all, but the top 3 things that will help an employee commit. I'm talking especially to you entrepreneurs and business owners. This is very important because it goes both ways. If you want to improve the productivity of your employees and the performance of your company, you need to help them out just like they need to help themselves out. It's a 2-way street. So what are the key drivers? So I'm going to say it in a different way. Maybe it will help. The first one very important point is actually your relationship with your boss or your superior, the person that's just above you. Okay. So the person that's just above you really is important in your own work. If you don't have a good relationship with your boss, this will lead to you leaving your company. This is why there's a lot of high turnover. When you have someone that's actually controlling you, and here's where boundaries are very important. We already talked a lot of boundaries in the past, morning communities. In short, what boundaries help is it helps reduces stress, it helps in your well-being, it helps increase your productivity, and it helps you increase your salary. How does it do that? Because by setting boundaries, so for example, if your boss comes and tells you, okay, Kras, you have to work from 9 till 5. You cannot leave before, or you have to stay more. For example, right now there's Corona, or COVID-19, and what happens is that you're working from home, so you can work more. This is where boundaries are important, and it's not because you're working from home that you should work more, or vice versa. So by setting boundaries, you have less stress because you already know what to expect from each other. You're more calm. You know where you're going. You know what you're doing, and this also increases your productivity because you have your the other time to help you relax, rejuvenate, and it also increases your salary because it's like the story we talked about in the beginning, where the Norwegian actually took a break, sharpened his axe, and at the same time he felt better. So for the long term, you would produce better, and if you produce better, this is when you can actually ask your boss for a raise. This is how you increase your salary. So those are 3 things that would help. This is why boundaries are so important. I'm going to include a theory.
What about the fear? If I put the boundary to my boss, maybe he will fire me.
That's a beautiful question. And so this is where alignment is important. Remember, we talked about alignment, growth, and belonging. Yes. So if you are not aligned with your job, if you're not aligned with your mission, if you're last week we talked about having your values in alignment with the values of the company.
He's frozen.
I'm here. Okay, so like I was saying last week.
Yeah, you were talking about
alignment.
Yes.
Yes. So the alignment between your personal values and the values of the company. So if you're not in alignment with the values of the company, then this would lead to a problem. And if you are aligned with the values of the company, why should you? And if you're in alignment with the values of the company and you are being productive and actually delivering the best that you can, then why would you fear your boss? If the problem is that your boss is still in a 9-to-5 mentality, then I believe you are in the wrong job. Because as long as you are delivering and over delivering and really, and we're going to talk a little bit about it later when we're going to talk more about raise and how to ask for a raise and stuff like this. This would help as well. Yeah.
Can I ask you something? Because now, when you have your own business, you want to find your ideal client.
Mm-hmm.
What if I don't have a business? Can I write what is my ideal boss?
Okay, can you repeat your question, please?
Can I write what is going to be my ideal boss?
Your ideal, if you don't have your business, or so an employee or as an employer?
I'm looking for a job. I don't have a business. And, normally in the business, it's very important to find your ideal client.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a business and I'm looking for a job. Is it good for me to find and to write what is my ideal boss?
It's not only good, it's actually recommended. It's very, 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 thank you for asking this question, Krasimir. It's very important because we are all, most of us are in personal development. What you visualize, you attract. And so if you imagine yourself having a boss that's, or a boss or a leader, if it's someone that you don't like, then why would you go work for them? And here's where belonging comes in. And here's where, so I'm going to jump into the theory I have that's very important and that might answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
So there are 3 different stages of relationships at work. Just like there are 3 different stages of relationships in personal relationships, there are 3 different relationships at work. The first stage is the falling in love stage. And in this stage, what happens is that the employer or the boss or the owner is actually in their masculine energy. And the employee is in their feminine energy. This is the first step. And this happens because the employer is actually the provider. He or she is providing to the employee a job. And so they are actually usually more masculine because they are setting the boundaries in the sense of the job description. So this is your job. This is what you should do. So those are the boundaries for you to work along with. And so the employee is actually here in their very, they're very excited. They're all about, okay, it's a new job. It's amazing. I'm going to grow. I'm going to prove myself. All is great. All is wonderful. And it's beautiful. And this lasts for some time. But at a certain stage, what happens is that we enter stage 2. And stage 2 is the falling out of love. And here is where it's the reverse of polarity. Here's where the boss or employer becomes more feminine and the employee becomes more masculine. Why is that? So the employer or boss becomes more feminine because they have grew on the employee. So they became a bit closer to them and they are a bit more lenient because the employee has been more productive and has delivered. So they are a bit more lenient. And so from the employee perspective, what happens is that either they got bored or they like, okay, I became really great at what I'm doing or at my job. So I want a new challenge. I want something else. And this is why there's the reverse of polarity. And then there's stage 3, where you're actually growing in love. And stage 3, when you're growing in love, it's about the balance between the masculine and the feminine. It's where both the employer and employee are both masculine and feminine, and they dance between the two. So it's when they've become, for example, not necessarily really good friends, but ideally yes. But if they become close, they have a close relationship outside of work, but at the same time they are delivering. This is where the balance comes in. And this is very, very important. So those 3 stages are really very important. So going back to your question, Krasimir, it is very important to know who your boss is, because if your boss is someone who's more bossy, then you would know how to deal with them, because if they're more bossy, so they're more masculine. And so by you being more feminine, you would feed into their masculinity. And this is where you can actually balance and know how things are. And as long as you are actually able to provide what you're asked for, so as long as you're achieving your purpose, delivering what you're asking for, you're in alignment with the company values, you are growing and belonging to the whole company culture, then you shouldn't have any worries. Again, the alignment is very important. Align with your boss, because your boss is actually in alignment with their own company values. They are the ones who created the values. So I hope this answers your question.
Yes, yes. I'm still thinking for other many questions, but I don't think we have time for this.
Okay, let's move on, and then because we still have a lot of material to
Yes.
Get into, and then we'll get back to the questions.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Can I just ask,
Yes.
can we use, so you're talking about masculine and feminine, can you use this quality, I mean, work on them wherever, so that we can actually create this like dance of love, like you were saying with your boss?
It's actually very recommended. So while stage 1 and stage 2 are important because we need to pass through stages, and this is how we actually tend to get to know our opposite sides at work. We need to. So, for example, the employee who starts as feminine in his work environment needs to also tap into his masculine energy. So, in stage 1, the employee took the masculine energy from the boss, and the boss took the feminine energy from the employee. In stage 2, it was the opposite way. You need to have it both from the inside out in order to be able to balance and complete from within, and not expect the other person to fill your needs. So stage 1 and stage 2 are in the needy phase. So the employee needs the employer, and the employer needs the employee. But in stage 3, sorry?
Are there any like practical tools or like question maybe I can ask myself in order to move through feminine energy in my work or through masculine energy in my work?
Yes. Okay. So it's actually very similar to masculine and feminine in relationships. So you can notice at your own dynamic. Last talk, I think we talked about leadership styles and relationship styles, and those two would help a lot. So look at your leadership style. Do you have a more masculine leadership style, or do you have a more feminine leadership style? The masculine leadership style is like you're more goal-oriented, you're more task-oriented. You have this task, you're going to do it no matter what. You're not going to go and talk with other employees. You're not going to go and have a break. You're just going to be focused until you achieve your purpose. So this is one thing, for example, when it comes to knowing that you're in your masculine energy. When it comes to leadership. When it comes to, and when you're in your feminine energy, you're more into, okay, let me take a break. Let me have a cigarette or a cup of coffee with my colleague. Let's go and chat. Or let me talk to my customer. Let me do this and that. And it's important to note that both styles of leadership are important. And it's important to dance between the two. It's all about us knowing when to use which. Because you can use, for example, 40-20, 80-20, or however you see fit, depending on the current situation in your work environment and how productive or non-productive you need to be. And this is one tool that you can use how to practically know if you're more into your masculine or your feminine. The other thing is to know as well from your relationship style. And here you can notice, and we're going to talk much more about it in next week. For this week, we can it's your relationship. How is your relationship with your boss? Are you the more feminine, or is your boss more masculine? And vice versa. If you're the boss, are you more masculine or are you more feminine? So if you're, for example, if you're a boss, for example, and you're very lenient, okay, do whatever you want, you're more feminine. You're allowing the flow, allowing the employee to actually flow and be happy and good. But if you're like, okay, you know what, George, you need to work today. So this is being more masculine. Or what have you done? What are your KPIs? Are you meeting your KPIs? This is more masculine. But if you're giving them space and allowing them to be there, then you're actually allowing them to be feminine. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, we have question from Stavros. He say, are there any specific ways to use to gain possible customers' trust?
Stay tuned for next week. Next week we're going to talk about customers, clients, and how colleagues talk with each other. It's going to be very interesting next week.
Thank you. So what is next? Because you said you have a lot of material to. My love, don't ask more questions.
Okay, so I'm going to try to fast forward a little bit. So having a caring manager actually helps an employee being more engaged, and having a more engaged employee helps them be more committed, more engaged, dedicated, and motivated. So this actually creates a customer engagement, which leads to actually more profits for the company, which leads to the stock rising. This is very important for you as employers or entrepreneurs to know. Help your employees and they will help you. Help them be more productive, help them engage, help them be part of your own company, your own family. Don't treat them as employees, treat them as part of your family. This is very important because lately there's a lot of turnover because managers, unfortunately, are not able to retain their employees. And which leads us to our last 2 points for employers, which are very crucial. The first is how to build relationships, how you can build your relationship with your employees, and in a good way, of course. And here we have 4 points. The first point is it's important to take it slow. Have multiple small chit chats. Don't expect to become that they will become your best friend. Don't expect them to come and ask them, oh, hey George, what are your values, or what is your how are you feeling today? This is not going to work from day one. You need to build trust, you need to gain their trust, you need to build it, and this can be done through multiple chit chats along the day, throughout weeks, months. It can take sometimes years for people to actually open up, because we all know, for those of us who actually worked for companies, or we tend to be quote unquote scared a little bit, or like they're reticent to actually open up to the boss because like they're the boss. So why should I open up to you? Like they would use it against us. It's based on the culture. So it's important to take our time. This is the first point. The second point is to empower their mission. So once they are a bit comfortable to open up about their mission, their purpose, help them out. Help them, and how you can help them out is, okay, I want to grow into, let's say, productivity. So what you can do, and again, this might be a crazy idea, is, okay, Brian Tracy is a great person when it comes to productivity. Let's bring Brian Tracy over in our company and let him give a speech. Or you can, for example, buy the employee a course. There are, again, depending on your budget and how you want to engage. So this shows a small thing. Okay, Krasimir loves Brian Tracy. So let me offer him this training, this program. So what this does, it helps Krasimir feel better about me as an employer, let's say, for example, or whatever the situation. Krasimir will actually be more productive because he will be like, okay, my boss likes, like he's taking care of me. He knows what I like. He's giving me tools to actually improve myself. And at the same time, by Krasimir doing the productivity course from Brian Tracy, he will become even more productive. So it's a win-win for both sides, and it's very, very important. Third point, get out of the office. It is very important to have your meeting out of the office, because if you're going to say, okay, you know what, Clementine, come to the office, let's close the door. This doesn't work. This is very old style, and this unfortunately leads to like raising the barriers up, and the employee would feel more tense. Okay, it's a formal meeting. Is he or she going to fire me? Is he or she going to tell me something? What's going to happen? Actually, it's actually very recommended that employers or owners invite over their employees to their homes, maybe to events they actually do, because this would actually break down the tension. This would put them at an equal level. It doesn't mean that when they're working, they should be equal. So the hierarchy needs to be flat, And by having those type of events, employees would feel better. They would feel like they're actually working with their friends while still working. It's not about this or that, it's both. So getting out of the office is very, very important. And the fourth thing is to depersonalize questions. So if, for example, you have a problem at work and you want to know more about it, instead of saying, hey, Pat, for example, what is the problem? Or why are you feeling this way? Make it general. So, for example, you could say, how is everyone feeling about this particular situation at work? And what this does is that they would answer in general, but also add their own personal opinion. So you'd have the two perspective. How amazing is that? It's indirect, but at the same time, they're including their perspective without feeling offended. Because let's face it, someone who has a problem at work won't say, oh, to their boss, hey, this is my problem. How can we solve it? It's going to be very weird to do that. So the 4 points are multiple chit chats, empower them, get out of the office, and depersonalize the questions. This is the first point. The last point for retaining your employees, and this is very, very important. They like to be part of a winning team. It's very important that you actually show them that your team is actually winning. The second point is they need to understand how they are adding value, how they are being productive, how they are adding value to the company. Don't just say, okay, you know what? At the end of it's not about coming at the end of the year and saying, listen, guys, let's do a general meeting. We did this much profit. We did this and that. This doesn't work. They want to know, Krasimir, this month, the company is increased by 500% in profits. And your role in this increase was 400%. And this is how you did it. So they would feel like, okay, so this is how I was able to help. And they would feel involved, they would feel motivated, they would want to do more and more and more. And they would feel they belong. It's not like, oh, it's secretive, I cannot tell you. No, include them, involve them. It's important. So which leads us to the third point. They want their contribution to be recognized, ideally in public. This is what Brian Tracy says. You can recognize them in private, and it's also great. But by having a meeting, for example, saying, for example, Krasimir, you have been the employee of the month. Congratulations. It's a small thing, just like that. And it doesn't have to be monetary things as well. There can be, of course. We'll talk a bit later if we have time about that. But it's also very, very important to actually recognize employees from a non-monetary perspective. A lot of studies have shown that monetary satisfaction is important, but not the most important factor that employees are actually looking for in a company. The fourth point, set challenges. It's important to constantly challenge your employees. Give them something to work for. Challenge, if you look at it from a masculine and feminine perspective, is you're actually, or from a hormone level, you're actually increasing the adrenaline level. When they're starting to get complacent, when they're in their comfort zone, they're feeling that, okay, I've grown enough. Challenge them to go a little bit further. I'm not saying to challenge them a lot. Challenge them a little bit so that they feel that they're producing, they are being productive, they are increasing, evolving, going out of their comfort zone, but not too much, because if they go too much out of their comfort zone, if the challenge is too far from them, they will have what we call fear of paralysis. So they won't be able to act. They will say, oh, I really don't have the skills. I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I going to do? It's too far for me. So break it down for them. This is important. Make them laugh. Make them laugh. As simple as that. This is bonding. This would release oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone, and it's important. This is how you can actually build long-term relationships with your employees and or employers. By the way, it goes both ways. Help them with their education, in the sense, like we were giving the example with the training of Brian Tracy. If they like to learn about productivity, help them improve on that. If you know that they like, for example, to take a cooking class, if they want to become a cook or whatever they like to do, find out about it. Important. You're freezing.
Actually,
You're
you.
back? You're here?
Freezing.
Okay. That must be the AC, maybe. Okay, so please, if you are an entrepreneur or an employer or a business owner, cut the 9 to 5 crap. The 9 to 5 crap is very obsolete. Then, unless you are actually working in a manufacturing company, so for example, you really need to do a manual labor, then it's really obsolete. It's really useless. It actually drains the employee. It actually decreases the productivity. Give them the free will. Give them the choice. This is very important. And mentor them. Everyone needs and wants mentoring. Even Bob Proctor, even Brian Tracy, they all have their own coaches.
Tony Robbins also has 5 coaches.
Sorry?
Tony Robbins also.
And it's normal because you need a financial coach, you need a health coach, you need a nutrition coach, you need a mental coach, you need a lot of coaches. For every area that you want to master, you need a coach. Because while you might know everything, Anthony Robbins knows everything. But when you're living in the moment, you need someone to remind you, hey, look here, you know that, but you're actually procrastinating, or you're actually not doing that, or you forgot about it. Here's where they actually kind of help you refocus. And this is where mentoring is very, very, very important. Whether at the first, when you're starting your career, or even when you're in the top of your game. When you're in the top of your game, you need someone to keep on pushing you forward and reminding you. Whereas when you're in the beginning of your career, you need someone to actually guide you in a different way, which is more like, okay, those are the best strategies. This is what I suggest that you do. Here's what I did when I was at your stage. This is what I suggest that you do. And there are different types of mentoring. So this is where it's important. The more mentors you have, the better it is. And mentoring is different, by the way, than coaching, because mentoring can be free in a way. In the sense that, of course, you're both adding value to each other, but you don't really need to pay for a mentor-mentee. And it helps actually for the productivity of the employees and employers, and for the performance of the company. 3 last points. 3 last points. One is on the body. So how you can retain your employees by helping them with their bodies, either by doing, like Krasimir was saying, for example, some companies like Google have gyms in their companies. This is very important. Gyms, or the nursery schools for kids, if you're working with your kids and you need to take care of them, etc., etc. Now, if, for example, some people don't want to shower, so there are some people that feel like, okay, I don't want to shower in public, I don't feel comfortable, then maybe gym is not for them. So what you can do is help them have a long road where they can walk. Walking as well is some sort of activity where they don't really sweat a lot, and they can go throughout their day and take a nice walk, inhale good vibes, and change the scenery. This is important. Second point is the mind. So have suggestion box and have brainstorming meeting. This would actually help them to be involved. They would feel more involved. By having anonymous suggestion box, employees would come and really put in what they actually want the company to improve, want to know more about, because it's like, oh, this, like George wrote, I want to have more blah, blah. So this is where you're actually removing the judgment and removing the fear from the employee side. This is important. And finally, spirit. It's important to help them understand their place in the company. This is actually those are summaries, so it's important to know that. And reduce the stress level. Reduce the stress level to the employees. This is important. This is what I would say.
Very important.
So I honestly don't think we will be able to go on for talking about employees. We will do that next time.
Yes, yes. We'll do
So,
it. And
because it
also,
needs a bit of time.
yes.
Okay, so thank you, George. We're gonna
Thank you.
leave you.
For those who have a questions, please leave the questions in the chat box.
With pleasure.
And yes, George will answer with them with pleasure. Okay, so stay healthy, be more focused. Don't forget what was in the jungle, and with this light, what Peter Sage said. If you focus on the news, you will have a crappy day. If you focus on the positive, you'll have a beautiful day. So
It's actually one of the things I wanted to talk about, but we didn't have time, like how to start your day to be more productive, like your morning habits, and many other stuff that are actually, and focusing is
can
one
we
of the,
add this for the next week,
yes, we will.
please, because it's very important. Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so have a beautiful day.
A
And
wonderful day to you too as well.
and see you tomorrow with Kyria Monica Pierito.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.